Can we unmute things, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
It is still live.
We are now unmuted.
We are.
Great. Someone's not feeling great. Yeah.
What's going on? That's why I was.
That's weird.
I can't tell.
So.
You don't want to sit up here?
You want me to sit there?
You're good.
It's like one seat.
Yeah.
You're right there. He doesn't bite. He might look a little scary, but he doesn't. Hello. Hi. It's getting chilly in here, isn't it? It is cold in here. Like, yeah, it's awesome. Hello. Hey, Betty.
Nice.
Hello, hello. I'm happy that the weather. Am I calling this thing to work?
Yes.
I guess.
No, I'm here. We got another minute to go.
Here.
Did you want to?
Huh? Oh, yeah.
Sit like on a.
One thing.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Staying on the desk.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know.
Just.
Do you want me to move and you can sit in
that.
here?
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted, I thought you'd be interested. Hi. Hi.
Okay. It looks like the appointed hour has arrived. All right, so we'll begin. I'll call the meeting to order now, 1:30, today, May 11th, 2022. This is the weekly Commissioners Finance meeting. So we'll begin with an opportunity for public comment. Do we have anyone on?
No, there's nobody on.
Okay, no one in the room. Okay, in that case, we'll move to item 3. We had tabled the minutes for April 20th. Now we need to act on those, but we need to move them off table first. So that'll take a motion.
I'll move to take approval of minutes of April 20, 2022 off the table.
I'll second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that is approved. So we'll move on to item 4. And the minutes are in hand for the April 20 meeting. Now we need action on those. So I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move to approve the minutes of April 20th, 2022.
Second.
It is moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to item 5. That's the minutes of the meeting from May 4. So we'll entertain a motion on that.
Move to approve minutes of May 4th.
I was not here, so I will not be seconding or voting on these.
Okay.
Which means we don't have a quorum.
I will second. So we have a motion on the floor, moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
We don't have a quorum in the room.
Hold on, we don't have a quorum.
We don't have a quorum. What do you mean we don't have a quorum?
Well, I'm not voting. And we have to have those votes in the room, don't we?
I don't think so. Stacy?
Wait for the finance. Keith is still here. Do we ask?
You know, that happened to public safety one
let's ask-
day. Same
let's
thing
ask
happened to
Keith.
public safety one day. And had that problem. I don't know, but it would be better to know than to not know.
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Yes. Are we getting Keith then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Give us
Okay.
about 1 minute.
That's fine. We can either wait for the minute or we can come back to this item. What's the desires of the board? I guess we're waiting.
Yeah, we'll wait. That's
All right.
my vote.
No, just, you just ask the computer.
I can go.
There should be a quorum in the room, however, for the purposes of minutes, it is appropriate for you to vote.
What does that?
Even though I wasn't here? Even though you weren't here. What Keith described was a situation where at the very beginning of a term, the three commissioners would vote even if they had not been at the previous. Fair enough. So then I can vote, but just so that we're clear on the, I don't think so, we do need to have a quorum in the room to pass things. Okay, yes.
Wait a second.
All
We
right.
need clarification on that because the past guidance has always been that as long as the connection on both sides is clearly audible, that is no different than having the participant in the room. So we'll need.
No, that is not true anymore. Keith is going to pull the research that Jen did and
Okay.
provide it to all of us.
Okay. All right. That's fine. We'll need to know that then. Okay.
Thank you, because the clarification on the minutes is very important, that I can indeed, even though I was not here, vote to approve those minutes. But this would put us in a predicament, right? In certain situations, this could put us in a terrible predicament that we could not move something forward. Okay, guess we'll wait for the chair.
Okay. So we have well, it's been moved. I withdraw my second. Now we need to have the other second.
And I will second those minutes.
Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. And for some reason, this is not opening up, but I know our topic of discussion is the next point. And we have Toy is here with her team on the warrants collections. So if there's nothing else, we'll turn it over to you now.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So for those of you who don't know, I am Toy and I am here to go over the data and statistics for the warrant collections unit for 2021. There it is. So first is the table of contents, just telling you where you can find everything. Section 1 is the glossary and definition of terms. This has not changed much since the past year, but I would like to point out that specialty courts was added. That was not in previously, and specialty courts is handled a little bit differently than our other payment plans, so we added the definition of that. Specialty courts in Cumberland County are designed to provide support to individuals as they navigate through the criminal justice system. While assessed costs, fees, fines, and when applicable restitution, there are no attempts to collect monies until the defendant has reached or completed a certain phase of the specialty court. And near the end of this presentation, then it describes that in more detail. I can go over that then.
And Toy, not to interrupt you, the flow, but and I'm sorry if you're gonna say this.
No, that's all right.
But I think one of the biggest changes over the last several months has been, and we've discussed this as a group, is the outside collection agencies. That they were being utilized. The statute was changed, and so that makes it very prohibitive. To
Right.
utilize outside collection agencies, and I'm just going to say that our team that we have internally probably would bring shame to the outside collection agency in terms of best practices and success rates. They're just not collecting.
They're not.
So our team is going to be really taking that over and bringing all of those cases in.
Yep, our plan is to bring them back and start working them ourselves, which we will be much more successful than they ever were.
Is that a benefit to the defendant as well?
Yeah, because they don't have to pay the fee, an extra 25%, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our plan is to June, pull them all back, start working them hard. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Stacy. Any other questions about the definition of terms or anything? Okay. So next is section 2, the statistics.
Do you want me to run that while you talk?
Yeah, that would be great. Do you mind?
I'll just bring it over here if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you need to take this guy with you? This is nice.
Oh, yeah, that would be nice too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So, starting off section 2, it's the overview of collection tools utilized. So you can see for 2021, there is a tremendous difference in this past year versus the previous years. We, Warrant Collections Unit, had to change the way they collected money from people who were not paying because bench warrants were no longer being done. Collection court was not being held. So driver's license suspensions was our main and only way to go after the people who were not paying. So as you can see, admin hearings for 2021 was $261,485.28. I do know that they tried to start holding admin hearings more in the middle to the end of the year to try to start collecting some of that money. Because in 2020, that wasn't happening either. And then in the collections court, there was $5,379, and those were just for, I believe, extreme cases that were allowed to come in for court. And then for the license suspensions, it was $1,463,000.
I'm sorry, I do not mean to interrupt you.
No.
Commissioner Eichelberger, could you please mute?
There shouldn't be any. All right,
You got it.
hang on. Working on it. I think you can proceed.
Okay, we're good. And then the driver's license suspensions, we actually collected $1,463,122.38, which was great. It actually ended up being a very valuable tool for us to use when we were not able to pursue current bench warrants that were out there or do any new ones. So that's why there was such a big difference. The warrant collections warrants overview, again, those numbers are extremely different because warrants just were not being pursued or issued. You can see we were not allowed to issue any warrants. No warrants were issued. There were 205 that were recalled. 2 people were released from prison, and we spent around 52 hours on warrants last year. So that should be changing. I am under the impression that in June, the prison is going to start to allow failure to pay warrants be brought in. So if that's the case, we will be issuing and pursuing the warrants that are already out there. So.
Boy, I'm sorry. Can we
No.
go back to the first part?
Yes,
Since the license suspension collections are so high
Yes.
compared to previous years, is that going to now be the new norm?
I do anticipate, because we actually just restructured the department a little bit a few weeks ago. Part of the reason why that number is so high is two girls in the department previously were not solely focused, but their main focus was warrants. They were working the warrants. So when the warrants were suspended because of COVID, they had to change their way and kind of join what the other girls did, and focus more on the driver's license suspension. Since we did a reorg recently in our department, everyone is going to be doing more of the same thing. We're not going to have two girls specifically working the bench warrants and going to court. Everyone is going to be working warrants, doing the driver's license suspensions, and going to court. So I anticipate this number to stay higher than previous years. I don't know that it's going to be as high because we're going to be working warrants, but that's why. Okay.
Yep.
And then license suspension overview. Again, it makes sense that these numbers for 2021 are much higher because what we brought in was much higher. So you can see for 2021, we had 1,254 suspensions. We had 1,170 restored. 776 were paid in full, and we spent about double the time on driver's license suspension, about 800 hours. Okay. Next is the warrant collection's ability to pay assessment. As you can see, 2021, there were only 37 assessments done, and the time spent on it was probably around 9-10 hours. I think there's lots of several reasons why that was much lower. Typically, when defendants go to collection court, that is one of the stipulations. They need to get an ability to pay packet, complete it, and send it to our office. Collections court was not held, so that was not happening. People were not coming into our office. It was more just phone calls, so they were not being submitted. And it also means that people were complying with, the payment plan that was set up and agreed to. So, I don't think as many were needed or requested. So I'm anxious to see what that number is next year when we get back more to a normal. All right, next is total criminal and juvenile division collections. So our total receipted collections for 2021 was $6,634,791.79. You can see for 2021, adult probation had $9,465.57. They just have a few straggler cases. They are cases, I believe that they are in treatment court and they have an agreement with their defendants. So they are collecting a very little bit each month. The unassigned amount is $1,396,982.55. That unassigned comes from a couple different places, several actually. ARD cases would be considered unassigned. Dockets that the defendant has made an agreement with the DA to pay prior to sentencing would be unassigned. Juvenile dockets, bail and bail forfeitures, and clerk of courts filing fees and miscellaneous collections. And then the warrant collections unit as a group collected a total of $5,228,343.67. So, any questions on that?
No.
Okay, and then next is your restitution collections. So for 2021, restitution, $1,523,679.74 was paid towards restitution, which is great. It was a little bit higher than 2020. Okay, the accounts receivable. So the total accounts receivable for 2021 was $62,759,408.66. That is the amount, the total amount that is owed to the county. If you look at this chart, $40,726,694.31 was paid within 0 to 3 months of when their payment was due. $18,228,370.58 was paid 91 days or even more. And there was a total of $3,804,343.77 where no payment was made.
There's just a slight variation in what she said. It's the defendant has made a payment in the last 0 to 90 days.
Okay.
So that is an extremely good number.
That number has expanded every year since the warrant collections unit had started. Prior to the warrant unit, the green, I'm assuming, I can't see that far, but the green one is how much, who has made a payment within 0 to
Correct.
30.
0 to 90.
That used to be much smaller. And I think as every year that the warrant unit has been in play, that getting people to pay earlier and more regularly, that piece of the pie has grown larger and larger. And that red one, which is haven't made a payment at all, continues to get smaller.
Which is key. That's our goal.
Yeah.
Okay, the total accounts receivable and year data by benchmarks for 2021. So you can see for 2021, the no payment went up a little bit, but you have to keep in mind, we were not able to issue new bench warrants or enforce the bench warrants that are already out there. And that was key to us being able to get some of that money. But if you look at greater than 5 years, it's down, which is great. We're cleaning up old cases, and that's really a good thing. The 0 to 90 days is pretty much dead even with 2020. So at least we're holding steady. And the total accounts receivable is down some for 2021, and that's a great thing. That's a very good thing. But it's not the only thing. I mean, the whole success of the warrant collections unit is not just the accounts receivable. There's lots of variables that go into it. But I'll take it. All right. The accounts receivable balance. So let's look at the time since last payment comparison for 2021. So if you look at 2021 versus 2020 for year one, the balance has gone up just a little bit, not a lot. But if you go to year two, the balance has gone down significantly. $2,886,092.85 versus the $4,690,062.31. So that's really good. Year three has gone up a little bit again. But if you look at year two in 2020, it was the $4,690,000. That amount would now be, and under the 2021 totals, it would be year three. We are nowhere near that $4,690,000. We've cut that in half. So that's, I mean, although the number went up, it is not a bad thing. We are working the cases. Year four increased a little bit. For 2021, it was $1,129,000. For 2020, it was $1,049,000. Year five, again, it did go up some. And then greater than 5 years, it went up a little bit, but it held steady. It wasn't horrible. And then the age of case non-payment comparison for 2021. So for year one, for 2021, it was $587,586.56. For 2020, it was $1,207,000. So that went down a little over $100,000, which is great. If you look at year two, there's a huge difference. So for year two for 2021, it was $703,617.34. For 2020, it was only $67,000. That is a big difference, but 2020 was a different year. There was a lot of free money. And I don't know that you can really compare the 2 years. I would think 2019, and yes, 2021 is still higher, but I don't think it's a good comparison between 2020 versus 2021. And then if you look at the rest of the years, year three, year four, they're a little bit higher, but they're comparable. Year 5 was more, there was more money, 167,000 versus 36, but again, that was 2020. And the total for the greater than 5 years went down, which is good. I mean, our main goal is to get those old cases and get them paid and cleared out of the system, and that has gone down.
Toya, are you okay if I add a little bit?
Yes, please do.
So I think another important thing to discuss in this is the accounts receivable balance is 1 day in time. And so if somebody clears their case, their information is going away. So you don't see their activity in here anymore.
You're losing.
And so some of that change is due to payments being paid off, and that's a good thing.
And the number of old cases has gone down significantly, which led in part to the reorganization of the department. The 2 ladies who were focusing on the old cases, their caseloads have gone to, they each had a couple hundred cases, that's it. So the decision was made at that point to just build that back into the regular caseload. It's all done alphabetically now between the 6 ladies.
And have
working
more
on
people
each way.
working less cases.
Yeah.
Which is
So
ultimately
instead
gonna
of-
get more money.
Yeah, some of them had 1,800 to 2,000 cases.
Right.
Incorporating this back in, they're all now down below 50. I think
They're
everything's
around
below
15.
1,500.
With the collection agency cases, they'll all be around 1,500. Any questions? A lot of information. Okay, now we're at the participants. So the number of participants, the time since their last payment comparison. So for year 1, for 2021, there was 6,368. So that's a little bit less than 2020. Year 2 is significantly less for 2021. There was only 724 participants. Year 3 was up a little bit. There were 690. Year 4, there was 354. Year 5, 199, and then greater than 5 years held steady at 811. And honestly, there are, I believe, almost 900 collection agency cases right now, the ones we're going to be calling back. That greater than 5 years, I bet you most of them are included in there. So that's probably why it held steady. That number should be changing. And then we have the age of case non-payment comparison for 2021. So for non-payment, year 1, there were 948 in 2021. There were 1,004 in 2020. Year 2, there was 332. Year 2, there was 332. I apologize. Year 3, there was 192. Year 4, 125. Year 5, 98. And greater than 5 years was 817. The age of non-payment has not really increased. That seems to be holding pretty consistently. All right. Next is our payment plans paid off. For 2021, we had 1,610 payment plans that were paid off in full. I like it. Hopefully our numbers can grow. And then the prison population overview. For 2021, there were 713 defendants that were sentenced to state, federal, or other state prisons, owing a total of $5,613,705.01. The amount of those payment plans that were overdue was $968,158.69. And the amount that was current and not overdue was the $4,645,546.32. Okay. Okay, exonerations. So for 2021, there were 147 deceased individuals that we exonerated their cases. There were 6 that were deported, and there were 10 that had extenuating circumstances. If you look at the chart below, for 2021, the total amount that was exonerated, dollar amount, was $762,088.10. And of that dollar amount, that was for 163 defendants, 361 cases. All right, next we have the breakdown of collections by disbursement. So the total for 2021 was $6,609,439.12. Of that total, you can see $1,549,791.18 was given to the state, dispersed to the state. We received $3,269,815.13. Municipalities got $234,017.98, and private restitution received $1,441,291.95. And then the last little bit, the $114,522.88 was dispersed to others, which would include the collection agencies, schools, hospitals, other counties, and the pathonetary. And we received these numbers from the clerk of courts, Denny Leva. Below that then is the percentages of the disbursement, which is easier to read by this dollar amount, the breakout. So you can see 23.45% is what the state got, there in the blue. The county received 49.47%. Municipalities got 3.55%. Private restitution received 21.8%, and the others received 1.73%.
I just want to remind everyone that the money that's dispersed to the state, a majority of that comes back later through supervision fees. That's just the way it works.
And one question, that's labeled here, county, what happens to those dollars?
I'm sorry, what did?
So the county dollars, most of them go into the general fund, and they're used to offset general fund expenditures. There are some that are required to go to restricted funds like offender supervision, ARD, which if there's any residual funding left, that gets split between drug and alcohol and the prison. I think there's another one, but.
That's fine. That's all very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Next are the funds dispersed to the county, the cost to collect. So $3,269,815.13 is what was given to the county. It cost $640,915.85 to cover the cost to run our department.
Along with,
Along with clerk of courts, sheriff, all the costs. That is the total cost that it takes to cover our whole process. So that leaves $2,628,899.28 for the county. We hit on March 12th.
I did offer that.
Yeah, March 12th is the date that we hit the $640,915.85. So the cost to cover our expenses was after March 12th was paid for. Everything else after that went to all the disbursements, not just the county, but everywhere. But we got that 2 million. So just kind of nice to know how long it's taking us until our expenses are covered. And I will say the expenses were a little bit less than last year, which typically would not make sense, but because we were no longer processing bench warrants, that's a huge expense for us and the clerk of court, so the cost did go down some. So next year, I anticipate that going up.
Okay, so that 2.6 million went to the general fund.
Most of it, not all of it, but most of it.
Yeah, if you look at Appendix 1, it shows the exact breakdown.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So $2,439,068 went to the general fund. And then the breakout is thereafter. Good. You got questions?
I can never understand why the balance is so high, 62 million.
Can I
If
answer that?
If that was all collected tomorrow. how much
It would
of
not
that
be
would
zero.
how
It
much
would
of
never
that-
be zero.
Let me finish my question, please. How much of that would be placed in our general fund? Do not know that, or can't
Roughly
even guess.
49% of it.
Yeah, probably, well, and a little less than 49%, because
So the rest is owed to the state municipality.
Restitution. But to add, that number will
Yeah,
never.
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's just because every day a judge sentences a defendant to owe more money. Most of that money is owed and the defendant is paying on, like a mortgage.
Yeah,
You know, you owe 100,000 on your mortgage, as long as you're paying every month, no one's coming after you. Still owe. It's still part of the balance too, but it will never be zero. Or close to it, or even close to zero. It will just never be that.
And theoretically, we could be doing the best job that we can do. And the AR could grow in a year
Yes.
because what we cannot control is the types of crimes that are being committed, the restitution that could potentially be owed to individuals. And so there are a lot of variables. right,
Also, how
that
many
go-
of
that
those
go into it.
defendants end up in jail, especially once the jails start opening up? Many of the inmates that are in state correctional institutions, we get $5 a month. They could owe $1 million, but because they're doing whatever work they can do for 10 cents an hour in the correctional institution, we get $5. They're paying what they're supposed to pay and allowed to pay, but their balance won't grow, but it's not making a significant dent in that large amount of money.
yeah, I realize it will never be zero, but I would think that in time it would come down.
As the caseload increases, that number will continue to increase.
Well, and court costs are always
Yes.
increasing.
Every year, the legislature increases whoever increases the court costs that have to be charged, or add additional court costs that have to be charged on every case. Unless our population and caseload would start reducing, which I don't see happening in the fastest growing county in Pennsylvania, that number will continue to grow. And
It's not the easiest thing to explain. to
no,
someone.
it's not. It's hard when you look at that, you're like, the balance, why can't they just pay the balance?
Well, you know, county, you guys could pay for more stuff if you collected your debt better, and it's like,
We're doing better than the majority of other counties in.
and I don't doubt that, but it's just a tough one to answer sometimes, at least for me. But I understand.
And many of these defendants, I think one of our main goals as well has been, it is better to have a defendant who is maybe paying a slightly smaller amount regularly and without having to chase them down every month,
Right.
than to try and force them to pay a higher amount, and these guys have to spend 3 times as much on that one guy.
Right.
Having someone paying regularly is a positive, even if it's slightly less than we might want to see.
Okay, anything else? All right, so section 3 are the appendices. There's some breakouts of the disbursement to the county, breakout of accounts receivable information, a summary of how essentially the department works, what CPCMS, the system that we use, how we utilize the sheriff and the clerk's office, the cost to collect. I would like to point out in Appendix 3 on page 4, the overview of the warrant collections versus operating costs. So for 2021, if you look at that, the expenses were $19,841.85, very similar, well, a little bit lower than 2020, than all the years, because expenses were lower because of not doing bench warrants and some other variables with COVID. But the personnel went up around $200,000. That is because I included not just the salary, but the benefits in that number. I thought it was beneficial to see the entire amount. So the total was around 200,000 more. The total for 2021 was $583,481.76. And that is everything. I know in previous years, if you look back, it was noted what the benefits costed down below, but they didn't include it in the top. And I just thought it was much better to include it and have everything up front. And even with that, we still had a net gain compared to last year, $600,000. We were at $4,644,861.91. So going forward, I'm just going to keep including those benefits in that number. And then at the back on page 7 and 8, there is an overview of the specialty court. It explains treatment court and what their process is to start paying, OIC court and Tom's court. So that's all I have. I would like to thank Dana and Stacy and Melissa. They were key to helping me gather this information as I've only been in this position for 5 months. So I really appreciated their guidance. They were very kind. And this actually, I'm glad I actually only had 5 months in because this is very beneficial to me. I can now refer back to this and look to see, you know, where there are things that maybe we need to look at and focus on a little bit more than others. So it really did work out, especially since I had their help. So that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
I think I might have one here in a second.
Okay.
All right, on Appendix 3, overview of the collections versus operating costs.
Okay.
It looks like since 2017, the net gain has like gone up almost 15 times.
Yep.
Which is good. Now that for 2021, the 4.6 net gain. 2.4 of that goes to the county. Is that correct?
Say that again.
2.4 million of the 4.6 million goes to the county. From what I'm seeing here.
Yeah, 2.4 of that goes into the general fund.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Looks
3
like,
million
yeah,
that
3
goes
point-
into the
about
actually,
3.3 million.
Yes,
right,
goes to the
comes
actual
back to the
county.
And that's the difference is the other funds that the money is deposited in.
So that is a significant increase from 2017.
every year seems to be, yes, getting higher. And honestly, that number from 2020, like I said, and back did not include the benefits. So for 2021, it was significantly higher. If you take out,
Yeah, and between 2017 and 2018 is when WCU took over probation collection.
Mhm.
So that's why there is that humongous jump
Right.
In just that department call, right? But the total numbers were still, they were system-wide, right? In the prior, that's just what they collected as a unit versus what they collected prior to adult probation's collections also being transferred and consolidating it all with one department.
And the economy is a very important piece of this. If we see a downturn in the economy, I do expect to see less collections occur.
Mhm.
And an important indicator will be to watch the time since the last payment and make sure that those aren't creeping up.
So our net collections are growing. But we're not knocking down the total overall AR because that amount keeps growing too, based on population, cases, et cetera.
It's almost like you're in a boat with a leak in it. You've got the bucket, right? You're hauling the water out, but more water is coming
Water's
in.
coming in.
can we tell these people the,
Yeah. The goal is to not sink, right?
Yeah, and keep, well, and I think the
Getting the water
indicator
out.
too of who's making payments. The important part to look at, and I forget what page it was on. There's a thing that says how much is delinquent? What percentage of that amount is delinquent? That's the people who aren't paying enough and everything else. You want to keep that green part as big or growing. that's okay as long if that's 62 million, I mean, not okay, but you know what I mean, that it means they're still doing a good job. There's nothing we can do to control the AR. I mean, short of telling you guys to stop sentencing people, but that's not gonna happen and that can't happen. Yeah, make the job a little easier. Yeah, a lot easier. But it, you know, we don't have control over the AR, really. What we have control of is how good a job these guys can do keeping the non-delinquent amount high and keeping the delinquent amount as low as possible.
Right.
And to get as many cases paid off as possible,
Right.
which is another important indicator that goes hand in hand with the AR.
Not having cases that are 5, 10, 15 years old, keeping them, paying them off as soon as possible.
But taking away the tool of prison and bench warrants and still keeping these numbers is pretty impressive.
It was a tough year.
That is our, yeah, that is our ultimate stick.
What was offset by the extra money that people got from unemployment and the supplements from the federal government and the child.
Still, they paid it to us.
Yeah, they paid it not somewhere else, right? So these guys managed to convince them that it was important to pay this off and not spend that money somewhere else.
Well, that's also the power of taking away driver's license.
Yes,
Yes.
and that is huge
It's an
tool.
excellent tool.
Yep.
It's
Not as scary as a bench warrant, but it's a big inconvenience.
It is unfortunate that it can only be used on a certain percentage of cases. Like,
Right.
it can't be used on everything. I would love to see that rule change. Take it for anything, but they are using it to the absolute maximum that they can, and it's working.
Yes.
There has to be a Title 75 offense mode
Okay.
in order to suspend somebody's license for non-payment.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Other
Sorry
questions or
about that.
comments?
I should have saved that when I was talking about them.
Non-offenses involved Title 75 though, so.
Right.
Yeah, a lot.
Very good question.
No, I just want to know if there are more comments or questions before we move on to the other business items.
Yeah, I'm good.
Me too.
This was good. This is good data.
Yes, thank
I'm gonna keep it posted.
Vast, this is a vast
Hello.
reporting we've seen before. Well, hats off to those.
Okay.
And we'll move on to the next item, which is other business at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Other business. Do we have anything?
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything.
Thank you.
Okay, if that's the case,
We can't hear you, Gary. You're breaking up.
somebody want to move for adjournment?
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.